The sky of Shankara turned red at dawn. Ships were burning. Smoke floated across the twin suns. People were running, aliens of all shapes and colors. And in the middle of that chaos, a single mother stood still, holding her child tight against her chest. Her name was Yelna. She was not a soldier, not a scientist. She was once a school cleaner on the outskirts of the city. Just a name lost in the long lists of the forgotten. But today, she was not invisible. Today, even the stars seemed to notice her. The war had arrived without warning. They said it began in the outer sectors. Pirates, rebels, corrupted defense lords, no one knew who had started it. All Yelna knew was that the explosions were getting closer. Her little boy, barely 4 light years old in human terms, was shaking. She whispered to him, "Stay quiet. Mama's here." Meanwhile, not far from the burning city, a human soldier, named Captain Theo Mars, walked through the wreckage. Tall, sharp-eyed, and tired from too many wars, Theo had seen entire worlds fall. He didn't expect to care about this one. It was just another mission, another broken planet. But something strange happened that morning. As Theo stepped into a broken market square, he heard a faint sound. Not weapons, not cries, a soft lullaby in an alien tongue. And it was coming. From a small broken shelter, half covered in ash. He paused. Weapons ready, eyes alert. But instead of attackers, he saw her, Yelna, covered in dirt and blood, rocking her child gently in the shadows. Her eyes met his. Why Yelna didn't beg. She didn't speak. She just nodded, holding her child tighter, expecting him to move on. But Theo didn't move. For the first time in a long while, he felt something crack inside his chest. Not fear, not duty. Something else, a strange pull. He lowered his weapon. Looked around, no enemy, no orders. Just one alien woman and her son. Unwanted by all, hunted by many. He said quietly, "Do you speak standard?" She nodded again. A little. He looked at the child. "He okay?" "Not sick," she said. Softly, just scared. A long silence. The kind that only comes before something big changes. "You can't stay here," Theo said. "This area is going to collapse." "Come with me," Yelna hesitated. She had been turned away by so many before, guards, soldiers, even other aliens. She had no job, no home, no family. No one ever said, "Come with me." "Why?" she asked. He shrugged. "Because nobody else will." The boy clung to his mother's leg, hiding behind her tail. Theo offered a half smile and crouched down. "I'm not going to hurt you. Promise. Double quotes. Yelna finally nodded. She followed him, stepping over broken glass and fallen debris. Theo tapped his gums. "Shelter 2, I'm bringing civilians in, too." "Copy," came the reply. "But make it fast. Command is pulling out." As they moved through the ruins, Theo asked, "What's your name?" "Yelna. My son Israel." "Yelna," he repeated slowly, making sure to say it right. They reached the evac ship just as another blast hit the far side of the market. The sky thundered. The little boy screamed. Theo lifted him up, arms strong but gentle, and carried him inside. Yelna looked at him. Really looked. No one had ever done that before. Not for her. Not for Rail. Inside the shelter, other soldiers stared. "You brought her?" One whispered, "She's with me." Theo replied sharply. And in that moment, something changed, because sometimes wars don't just destroy, they also reveal. And what Theo had seen in that ash-covered corner was not weakness. It was strength. A mother's strength. And he wasn't going to walk away from that. Yelna sat on a cold bench in the corner of the human emergency shelter. Around her, flashing red lights pulsed faintly with each status alert from the defense walls. Thick doors sealed off the outer noise, but the fear still leaked in through the silence of others. Dozens of alien civilians sat inside, silent, still, each lost in their own memories of what they had just escaped. But Yelna didn't care about them. Her eyes stayed fixed on her son, Rael, who finally slept peacefully in her arms. Her hands were still shaking. They hadn't stopped since Theo had pulled them into this place. On the far side of the room, Captain Theo Mars leaned against a steel pillar, arms crossed, his weapon holstered now, helmet off, revealing tired eyes that had seen too many galaxies bleed. His gaze swept over everyone inside, and then returned, again and again, to the quiet mother and her son. There was something about her, something he couldn't explain. Maybe it was how calm she had stayed. Maybe it was how she hadn't begged. Maybe it was how she had sung to her child while everything burned. She had survived in a city where even trained warriors had fallen in minutes, and yet no one else had spoken to her. When food rations were handed out, other aliens turned away. A tall green-skinned soldier with broken tusks muttered, "She shouldn't be here." "Why?" Theo asked flatly. The soldier growled, "That's a Gralic. They're cursed, weak, not fit for labor or fight." "She should have been left." Theo stepped closer. "Say that again, but slower." The alien backed down, muttering something under his breath. Yelna hadn't heard the words, but she had seen those looks before. They were always the same. Every time she begged for work, every time she walked past the market walls, every time someone saw the tail and the blue lines. On her arms, marks of her species. Marks of shame. But she wasn't ashamed anymore. Not today. She looked at Theo across the room and nodded. Once, he nodded back. Then, the room shook. A low rumble beneath their feet. Elm clutched Rael and stood alert. Sirens echoed through the shelter, and the emergency lights turned deep orange. "Defense perimeter breached," a robotic voice announced. "All non-combatants remain in shelter. Soldiers to level 2. Theo moved instantly, sliding on his armor plate, snapping the helmet over his head. But before leaving, he paused and looked at Yelna. "Stay here, no matter what." Yelna whispered, "Please don't let them take him." Theo didn't answer, but he touched 2 fingers to his forehead and gave her a quiet salute. Then he disappeared into the steel corridor with the rest of the soldiers. Outside the shelter, the war wasn't over. An enemy ship had landed, small, fast, and dangerous. Not a random attack, a target. Something precise. Theo and his team engaged quickly. Laser fire echoed in the narrow steel halls. Bodies fell. Alarms screamed. But inside the shelter, something else was happening. An old woman with a thin red cloak stared at Yelna. Her eyes were pale and silver, and not kind. "He saved you," the woman said. "The human, why?" Yelna replied, "I don't know." "You're hiding something." Yelna's fingers tightened around her child. "I only want my son safe." The old woman leaned closer. "You smell like the factories." "Old fire. You were born in the dark sector, weren't you?" Yelna said. "Nothing. They said a Gralic child disappeared from the science sector years ago. Project Ira, Experiment 17. Is that you?" Yelna's heart dropped. She stood quickly, backing away, but the woman laughed softly. "They'll find out. Especially your human friend. They always do." Meanwhile, Theo kicked down a door to the second corridor. Stepping over broken panels and blood. His wrist display flashed red. "Incoming transmission. Mars." He answered. "Captain," said his commander. "New intel. The attack isn't random. They're here for someone inside your shelter." Theo paused. "Who? We don't know yet. But the enemy is using facial scans. They're not after weapons. They're after a person." He froze. Thoughts racing. "Yelna? No, it couldn't be. But could it?" Back inside, the shelter lights flickered. The old woman was gone. Yelna sat down slowly, shaking. Her mind screamed with fear. Not for herself. For Rael. She looked down at his face, peaceful, Small. Too young to know any of this. He didn't know what she had run from. What she had done to keep him alive. What she was hiding. Not even Theo knew. But he would. Soon. Theo returned an hour later. Blood on his armor. Scratches on his helmet. He walked straight to her. I need to ask you something, he said. Why? Nail looked up, quietly bracing for the worst. Who are you running from? For a long moment, she didn't speak. Then, she said softly, I used to clean labs, deep labs. One day, I heard something I shouldn't have. They were testing on our children, cutting them open, changing them. Theo's jaw tightened. So I took one of them, she whispered, tears forming. He's not mine by blood, but he is my son. He stared at her. The boy was one of the experiments, the reason for the war. And the target of the enemy scans. The shelter turned cold, not in temperature, but in feeling. Like the walls themselves had heard the words. Subject confirmed. Why? Na held her son close, her arms like a shield. Theo's hand moved to his weapon. The soldiers inside looked around, confused, unsure what was coming next. But Theo knew. Deep down he knew. They were coming for the boy. He looked at Yelna. Is it true? He asked quietly. Your son, he's the target? Yelna nodded slowly. Yes, but I didn't know until it was too late. What is he? Yelna whispered. They called him the Code Child. Project 17. They said he would be a key. Key to what? Yelna's voice shook. I don't know. Just that many would want him. Some to protect. Some to destroy. Theo stepped back, pacing, his mind racing. He had saved people before. Families, civilians, refugees. But never like this. Never someone at the center of a planetary hunt. And this boy, this small, innocent boy, was not just someone's son. He was something more. Outside, a black ship hovered just beyond the ridge. Unseen by the shelter sensors. Silent. Smooth. Shaped like a dagger. Inside that ship, a figure sat on a throne of metal and bone. Female, tall, skin pale blue. Eyes covered by a silver mask. Her voice echoed through the chamber. Begin phase 2. We extract the child. One of her soldiers asked, what of the human? Terminate if necessary. Back in the shelter, Theo made a decision. He tapped his cum. Command, this is Mars. I'm requesting emergency extraction for 2 civilians. No questions, just do it. There was a pause. Then static. Then silence. Why? Now looked up. They're jamming it, aren't they? Theo nodded. They're not. Just after you. They don't want anyone stopping them. He turned to the other soldiers. Lock the doors, double seal them. Prepare fallback plan Echo. They obeyed. But one of them, Private Resk, a young human recruit, stepped forward. Sir, what's going on? Theo looked him straight in the eye. You want the truth? Resk nodded. This child, Theo said, pointing to Rail, is the reason our base is under attack. Yelna Tensed. Theo continued. But he's also innocent. He didn't choose this. And we don't throw children to the wolves. Yelna blinked back tears. Resk hesitated, then saluted. Yes, sir. They moved fast. Theo led them through an underground tunnel, an old mining shaft that had been abandoned years ago. Yelna held Rail tight. The walls were narrow, damp, and filled with echoing drips of water. Behind them, faint thuds could be heard, the sound of boots getting closer. Why? Ma whispered. How long do we have? Not long, Theo replied. But I have a contact. She owes me a favor. If we reach the old station, we might slip off planet. Yelna paused. What if they catch us before that? Then I buy you time. No, she said firmly. You're not dying for us. He stopped and looked at her, eyes intense. You already did something brave. You ran, you hid. You raised him. Now let me do my part. Yelna couldn't speak. So she nodded. Meanwhile, the enemy forces reached the surface above them. They didn't knock. They cut through steel like it was paper. Smoke filled the shelter. Chaos erupted again. But Rael and Yelna were already gone. So was Theo. Inside the tunnels, Theo's cum buzzed again. Faint signal. A voice crackled through. Mars. You have 5 minutes. Contact landing at Sector 3-2. Copy, Theo whispered. We'll make it, Yelna asked. Who is it? An old smuggler, doesn't ask questions, just flies. If we get to her, you and Rael are off this rock. And you? Theo didn't answer. Instead, he turned a sharp corner and froze. Ahead, a figure was blocking the tunnel. Not human. Not any species Yelna recognized. Tall, armored, glowing eyes. Holding a long blade made of black fire. Yelna gasped. That's one of them. Theo stepped forward. Stay behind me. The figure raised a hand. Hand over the code, child. Theo replied coldly. He has a name. And you're not getting him. You can't protect them. Watch me. The alien warrior moved fast. Theo moved faster. Blasters fired. The tunnel filled with flashes of light and echoing screams. Theo shoved Yelna into a side passage, yelling, Run! Yelna ran, holding her son tighter, tears in her eyes. Behind her, she heard a roar, not from the alien. From Theo. And then silence. Yelna emerged from the tunnel into open air. She blinked against the sudden light, and there it was, the ship. Rusty. Small. Floating just above the dirt. A woman stood beside it, chewing something and wearing a worn jacket. She looked surprised to see an alien mother with a child. You? Yelna? The woman asked. Yelna gasped. Yes, Theo sent me. The smuggler sighed. Figures. He always finds the impossible ones. Then her eyes narrowed. Where is he? Yelna turned around, but there was only smoke behind her. And no sign of Theo. Mars. The ramp of the ship was still open. The engines were hot, humming like a beast ready to launch. Yelna stood frozen at the top of the boarding ramp, her child tight in her arms, staring at the figure walking through the smoke. It was him. It was Theo. His silhouette was clear, tall, strong, with his signature limp from an old injury. The right side of his body was covered in fresh blood and dust. His armor was cracked, his helmet gone, and his eyes, they weren't human anymore. Not fully. Stop! The smuggler woman shouted from behind Yelna, raising her plasma rifle. Something's wrong. Yelna stepped in front of her. Wait, it's him. But even. She wasn't sure now. Theo walked up the ramp slowly. His voice was quiet. It's me. I'm all right. But there was something in his tone, like a note slightly out of tune. Not wrong enough to notice immediately, but wrong enough to make your stomach twist. The smuggler narrowed her eyes. Prove it. Theo looked at Yelna. Your son. His name is Rael. You sing to him every night. Same lullaby. The one about the silver moon. Yelna felt her heart ease. But then the smuggler whispered, How does he know that? Yelna blinked. She hadn't sung that lullaby in front of Theo. Ever. She slowly backed up. What happened to you in the tunnel? She asked. Theo didn't answer. He stepped into the ship. We don't have time. More soldiers are coming. Let's go. But Rael, the small child in Yelna's arms, suddenly screamed. Yelna froze. Rael had never screamed like that before. Not even in battle, not even during the fire, but now he was crying, clawing at her chest, eyes wide in terror. And pointing at Theo. He leaned single quotes as hands trembled. Get off the ship, she whispered to Theo. He stopped. His head tilted slightly, like something studying her. Then he smiled, and that smile wasn't Theo's. Not at all. The smuggler didn't wait. She hit a button on her wristband. A pulse of blue light exploded through the cabin, throwing Theo back. His body slammed against the ramp. He groaned, not in pain, but in fury. His eyes flashed silver for a second. Alien silver. What is that? Yelna shouted, stepping back. Not Theo, the smuggler growled. Not anymore. Seen it before. Body clone. Rapid neural overwrite. They sent a mimic. Yelna's knees buckled. They copied him? The smuggler nodded. Probably when he fought that black flame guard, they got into his system. Used his memories, tried to slip in. The mimic Theo stood up, shaking, voice glitching slightly. You will not escape. Watch us, the smuggler said, and hit the ramp release. The metal slammed shut. Engines roared. Dust blew. And the ship lifted. Beneath them, the fake Theo stood in the smoke, watching with eyes that no longer belonged to the man who had saved them. Yelna stood shaking in the ship's corner, tears silently falling. Her hero was gone, or worse, turned into something that now hunted them. They jumped to hyperspace within minutes. The stars bent, stretched, and vanished into streaks. Silence filled the cabin. The smuggler, whose name was Marla, finally spoke. Listen, kid, I don't know what your son is, but they're scared of him. And anyone they fear this much? They want him for a reason. Yelna hugged Rail tighter. He's just a child. Maybe, Marla said. But he's not just anything. Anymore. And if they used Theo to get to you once, they'll try again. Yelna looked down at her son. His eyes, wide, glowing faintly now, were no longer just those of an innocent child. Something inside him had awakened. In the storage bay of the ship, a small device suddenly beeped. Marla rushed over. Tracker! She shouted. Damn it! They tagged one of you, Yelna gasped. I swear, I didn't. I know, Marla cut in. Not you. Not the kid. She looked at a black cloth bag that Theo had carried. Marla grabbed it, opened it, and froze. Inside was a glowing cube. Not human. Tech. Not alien tech, either. Something else. Marla stepped back. This is ancient. Yelna stepped closer. What is it? I don't know, Marla whispered. But Theo must have found it in the tunnels. Maybe even before he changed. Or maybe that's what changed him. Rail reached out toward the cube. The moment his fingers touched it, the cube lit up. A soft hum filled the cabin. Symbols appeared in the air. And a voice, no language. Just emotion, filled their minds. Not of war. Not of fear, but of warning. The cube floated in the air now. Just above Rail's small hands. Glowing, humming, spinning slowly. All now watched, unable to breathe. Every time the boy blinked, the cube responded. Every time he exhaled, it pulsed with light. Like it was connected. Not to his mind, but to something deeper. His soul. Marla stepped back. That's not just a key, it's a beacon. Yelna whispered. A beacon for what? Marla didn't answer right away. Instead, she turned and started typing quickly on her ship's console, pulling up star maps, ancient logs, and pre-war warnings. Every few seconds, she paused to wipe sweat from her brow. Yelna followed. Tell me. Marla finally looked up. 32 years ago, a signal was detected in the outer rim. No one could translate it. They thought it was a system glitch, but someone recorded it. She tapped the screen. A soft chime played, the same hum the cube was making. Yelna shivered. It's the same, yeah. And that's not all. Marla said, zooming into a distant part of the map. The signal comes from here, the derelict system, 10 dead stars. No planets, nothing should be out there, Yelna frowned. So why is something calling us there? Marla turned slowly. Because something buried out there is waking up, and Rail is the trigger. Rail sat in the corner of the ship, quiet. Too quiet for a child. He stared at the cube. Not in fear, in understanding. Yelna stepped toward him, kneeling. Are you okay, my son? Rael looked up, his small face calm. The stars. They're not quiet anymore, he said softly. They're talking. Yelna blinked. What do you mean? They're afraid. Something is coming. Something old. And I'm supposed to stop it. Her heart sank. You're just a child. You don't have to stop anything. But Rael shook his head. No, Mama, it's not a choice. It's in me. And when he touched the cube again, the ship shuddered. A flash of light poured from the cube, shooting upward, piercing the ceiling and continuing into deep space. Yel, Na screamed, shielding Rael. Marla dove for the control panel. What was that? Yelna cried. He just broadcasted a location, Marla said, panicking. Everyone in this quadrant saw that, Yelna gasped. They'll come for us. Marla slammed her fist against the console. Not just them, all of them. Somewhere across the galaxy, on a high-orbiting fortress, a council of alien leaders received the signal. A pale warrior leaned forward. The artifact has been activated. Another, reptilian, hissed. We warned them never to touch it, a third one growled. Find the child, find the cube. Destroy them both. Back on the ship, Marla spun the ship around, entering the new coordinates that had appeared after the flash. We're going to the derelict system, she muttered. Yel Na stared at her. But you said it's dead. So was the cube, too. Minutes ago, Marla shot back. Now it's calling. Yelna hesitated. And if it's a trap? Marla smiled grimly. Then we spring it first. 3 days passed. The ship cruised through empty space. No stars. No planets. Nothing but black. Until something shimmered in front of them. Yel Na stood beside Marla in the cockpit. Is that a shield field? Marla said. A big one. Cloaking something huge. She reached for the ship's scanners, but they instantly fried. Yel Na gasped. We're blind. That's not all, Marla muttered. We're being pulled in. The ship shuddered again. Metal groaned. Yel Na grabbed Rael and held him close. The stars vanished, and suddenly, they were inside something. They hovered in the middle of a massive chamber. Not a station. Not a ship, but something. Older. Like a cathedral carved from moonlight. Symbols glowed on the walls. Quiet music echoed all around, but no voices. No footsteps. Just silence. Marla whispered. This place. It's not in any records. Yelna stepped forward. Do you feel that? Marla nodded. Gravity, but not normal. No, Yelna said. It feels like memory. Rael floated suddenly, his body rising on its own. Yelna screamed, reaching for him, but a soft light surrounded the boy, holding him gently, and then a voice filled the chamber, not one they could hear with their ears, but one that spoke to their minds. Guardian accepted. Code child identified. Final protocol unlocked. Yelna's breath caught. What does that mean? The light shifted, and an image appeared. A planet. Burning. Screaming. Dying. And above it, a black shape. Like a god made of machines. Marla gasped. That's not from this galaxy. What is it? Yelna whispered. The voice replied. It is called the Hollow One, destroyer of stars. And your child is the last lock. The chamber was silent, except for the soft hum around Rael. Yel Na stood still, her knees weak, her breath shaking. The image of the Hollow One still burned in her mind, the black god of machines, the one who devours planets. And now, her child was the lock, she whispered. Why him? He's just a boy. The voice answered gently, a voice of stars and dust. He was never just a boy. He is the echo of a promise. The last seed of the protectors, born in darkness, raised in love, shaped by mercy. And now he must choose. Yelna shook her head. He's too young. He can't choose. The cube floated beside Rael, glowing brighter than ever. Marla stepped closer, hand on her weapon, just in case. "This is bigger than us," she muttered. "Way bigger." Suddenly, the floor beneath them lit up. A path made of light. "It wants us to follow," Marla said. "No," Yelna replied. "It wants him to lead." They walked slowly, the cube hovering beside Rail like a guide. Every step forward made the air heavier. Symbols flickered across the walls, alien language mixed with images, battles, mothers holding children. Stars breaking apart. At the end of the path stood a massive door. More like a gate. Behind it was the core. The vault that held the last weapon of the protectors, a living army made of light and memory, once used to fight the Hollow One, but that army had been locked away. Because opening it came with a cost. "Only the key can open it," the voice said. "And what happens if he does?" Yelna asked. "Then his body will break, and his soul will become the first command of war." Yelna's heart stopped. No, he's just a child. He is the last hope." Marla cursed under her breath. "Is this a prophecy or a trap?" The cube pulsed. "This is mercy. This is sacrifice. This is choice." Rail floated forward slowly. Yla rushed to him. "Stop. Baby, please." Rail looked at her with glowing eyes. "Calm. No fear, Mama," he said gently. "It's okay. I see everything now. It's like remembering a dream I had before I was born." Yelna's hands trembled. "You don't have to do this. We'll find another way. There's always another way," Rail smiled. "You already gave me everything. Your hands, your voice, your love. I'm not afraid. I want to protect you." He touched her cheek. And the cube floated beside her, humming softly. "You can stop him," the voice whispered. "Destroy the cube. And all this ends. The Hollow One will come. But he will find no door." Yelna stared at the cube. One blow. One shot. One act of love. And it would be over. Her son would live. The war would come, but maybe, just maybe, someone else would stop it. She looked at Marla. "If you had the chance," Yelna whispered, "to save the galaxy or save your child, what would you choose?" Marla lowered her eyes. "I'd choose the child," she whispered. "Every time." Yelna looked down at her hands. Strong hands, calloused hands. A mother's hands, and then she raised the cube. But before she could strike, the door behind Rail opened on its own. A blast of golden wind swept through the chamber. Yelna screamed. Marla was thrown back. The cube shattered into light. And Rail floated into the core. Yl now ran like she had never run before. Rail. Inside the core, time felt different. Colors moved like waves. Memory and future twisted like threads. And in the center stood the true machine god, not the Hollow One, not evil, but a being made of knowledge and code. The first protector, broken, dying, alone. And when Rail stepped forward, it bowed. "Welcome, heir. The stars have waited for you." Rail nodded once. And then his small voice echoed like thunder. "Wake up." On every forgotten battlefield, lights blinked. On every lost moon, ancient guardians rose. Across the galaxy, the Hollow One's ships turned, sensing power again. And far away, in the deep black, the Hollow One opened its eyes. Marla's ship. Minutes later, the three of them stood silently. Rail was different now. Not older, not colder, just brighter. He was still her son. But more. Yl held his hand, staring into the stars. "Will they come?" she asked. Marla answered. "Yes, they will." Rail looked at his mother. "But this time," he said softly, "they won't find us hiding. They'll find us waiting." Final scene, emotional ending. Yelna tucked Rail into a small bed, just like always. Same blanket. Same lullaby. Even gods needed to sleep. She kissed his forehead. He whispered, "Thank you, Mama." And before closing his eyes, he said one more thing, softly, sweetly. "You gave me life. Now I'll give the stars a future.